Hey, welcome. I feel kind of naked hosting the show today without an accordion, but I'll make do. This is Weird Al. This is Carnival of Cosplay. We have some new things in the studio tonight. Uh, One of the mannequins without a head was broken, and it's back with the Crusader outfit on. I have a new full size mannequin. That's Mandy the mannequin. He's wearing a Prisoner Loki jumpsuit, and the Rocketeer's been here since day one. So we're all here, and I'd like to welcome you to episode 15. Let's go ahead and go along straight with it. And today's guest is Mink the Satyr, because Arnold the Aardvark couldn't be here right now.
Hello. How you doing? My condolences to Arnold. I'm happy that I could, pinch hit in, these troubling times.
Yes, yes. Um, I have new sound effects.
I like your soundboard. It's very nice.
Has new sound effects that just came in. Watch out! I think the period's over. Let's go in between the period here. Okay. Now I've known you for nice green background. Is that the
Oh,
wall?
thank you. It's actually this giant circle that is right behind my chair. I used it back when I did a lot of streaming, like with my flesh. Now I just stream with a virtual avatar instead. So I'm just too lazy to take it down, and folding it up is a pain. So now I just have this perpetual, beautiful day glow
Well,
green behind me at all
that
times.
could be useful. That wall of the studio is covered with curtains of all different colors, so I could have a different thing to shoot stuff against.
Really,
Uh,
what's happening now is I'm challenging your viewers to download the video and green screen me into exciting locations. So I expect big things from your viewers. It's a challenge.
Now, I've known you for about 4.5 years.
Really? I feel
I
like it's got to have been longer, but it's really hard to tell for anything because we all had that snap time dilation.
That's
So
true. This is the
what
best
is
way
time?
to. I had my medical problem during that time too. So
Great, you had your medical problem, and then I had my medical problem. So
yes,
we're like medical bros.
we won't go through it because this is not Carnival of Illness. This is Carnival of Cosplay. Because we could do 3 episodes on Carnival of Illness.
And
Uh,
they'd be very entertaining.
to the medical profession. Not people in general on the internet, but the medical profession. But this is actually kind of light because I was cosplaying a serial killer all weekend. So this is actually more light and fun and airy. After a while, I had like 15 pages of dialogue, and it was really heavy after a while. But
Sure. Well, if you wanted light and airy, I am a Gemini, and that's an air
I
sign.
am
So I
too.
got you.
What day of the month?
I am the 15th.
I am the 14th.
Wait, your Flag Day?
Yes, I am.
Also,
When I was little, my father told me that all those flags lining the streets were just for me and my birthday.
oh, that's really sweet. See, I was born
I
on
thought
Father's
that for
Day,
years.
so
For years, I thought that.
I've just always had to share my birthday. I'm also a twin, so I don't know what it's like to
I
not
never
have to
knew
get
that
someone a
about
gift
you.
on my
Boy or
birthday.
girl?
Boy.
Identical or not? Okay, not identical then.
Now, thank you. Thank you for knowing that because sometimes I'll answer that question and I will say I have a boy twin, and people will still ask if we're identical, and I don't know how to not be offended.
I think we first met at Haverhill.
That sounds right. Yeah.
I didn't see you at the time. I just heard you, and I immediately said, "She doesn't sound like a cosplay player,"
Oh no.
because you were extremely professional.
Oh, thank you.
So you shouldn't be insulted. It's everybody else that should be insulted. It's just you.
Sorry, everybody.
And then I found out later that you were a teacher, and I said, "Oh, it makes sense. Made
Yeah,
sense."
yeah. I've been teaching for 14 years, so
That's a long
I'm not
time.
new.
That is a long time. I taught for 20 years. But also on this channel is you.
Hey, here I am. Hello.
You and Red Bark or Barn Crafting.
Red Bar Crafting. Yeah, we're going to
And
be at
the main girl.
ComicCon. Are you thinking of Legend of Larcy?
Yes, that's her. That's her. I don't know why I couldn't could not think of her. She was at with you at Tavro that day too, I think.
Yes, she was. Yes,
You had met
the three of
Monster.
us were together at the Haverhill Comic Con, and we're going to be united again. In early February, we're going to be in Warwick, Rhode Island at Captain Con, which is a board gaming convention.
Oh, I was
That
wondering
well,
what that
board
was.
gaming is not quite the right word because it's board gaming and tabletop role playing and minfig gaming and also cosplay.
I know that you have gone to a bunch of gaming conventions,
Yes, yes, I have video gaming and board gaming.
sometimes even on purpose.
Always on purpose, never by accident.
There was one you
Most
were going to in Philadelphia once. I can't remember it. You wanted to go to the thing that everybody was going to, but you were going to Philadelphia for. I don't remember what that event was. We were talking about it once. I mean, it might have been in Fitchburg. Was it Fitchburg?
oh, it might have been. Now I
And
can't remember. Who
we
I have
talked
the
about
memory
it.
of the goldfish.
Here it is.
Ah, yes. That was one of the libraries that we went to for ComicCon. Oh,
I mean, that was one of the. Those are two ones I think we both were there for professional reasons. I mean,
that's correct. Yeah,
I've seen you a billion Comic Cons back to Northeast Comic Con, which I shot your panel, and your panel is also on this channel.
that's right. That was in Boxborough, right?
Yep, New England Comic Con.
That was a lovely convention. I remember the weather being a little gross that weekend, but we were pretty decently attended.
And I asked if I could shoot your Comic Con, and I put it up there. And I think it has about 400 views.
That's
Uh,
fantastic. Yeah, that was a really delightful panel, and was really grateful that we had the opportunity to deliver that panel because I found it to be a really good time, and the audience had some really good questions after the fact too, so I really appreciated that.
cosplay. I think wasn't it? So you want to cosplay?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure if memory serves, that was the one that we were doing.
Yes. And you too can find it under New England Comic Con or Boxball Comic Con. And her name's associated, Mink the Satyr, which before any of you at home begin to wonder where she got her name, I already know the story.
That's right. In actual fact, there is a LARP that I've been participating in for literal years. It's called Tales of Valor. It is still running even to this very day at time of recording. Um, but we're in like a new season, so to speak. So the original campaigns have come and gone. But many years ago, I began my very first LARP adventure at this particular live action role playing organization. And I built a character that was a satyr, and I named her Minkar, which is the name of a star in the Corvidae constellation.
Well, that
But I didn't want everyone to call me Minkar because it sounds so formal. I wanted everyone to call me Mink. And so when you role play games, so those of you who have played like Dungeons and Dragons and things like that, you've done a tabletop role play and you've tabletop role played a character for years and years. It's easy to like have that as near and dear to your identity, and it kind of like that character is like a part of you. LARPing is doing that, but like 500 degrees further because you're actually acting as that character for an entire weekend, multiple weekends a year.
lightning
So after
bug.
like no joke, 10 years of being a satyr, it sort of stuck.
It's in
Um,
your blood.
oh, it's definitely in my blood. It's definitely part of my identity. I no joke have within arm's reach, I have a I'm gonna grab it. I have a plush of my satyr from my LARPing days. I commissioned this. One of my friends makes adorable plushies. So I was like, yes, I am that level of nerd that I wanted a plush of my LARP character.
What costume are you wearing today? Tell us about it.
Today I am wearing my interpretation of the Pokemon Persian. Uh,
Gee,
because
that's
that's
so
kind of my
strange.
thing
Doing
is I
Pokemon
like to do
cosplay.
interpretations of Pokemon.
You do more Pokemons than anybody I know.
I should hope so, only because I do an unforgivable amount of Pokemon cosplay. I'm
Yes.
on a quest to cosplay the original 151 Pokemon. I'm like 50 something in, which feels like I'm not very far when you look at like the trajectory of 151. But I'm going to casually remind you that's like over 50 costumes. A lot.
That sounds obsessed, except
Yeah, a little.
Cindy. Cindy, who was episode 4, I think. She was one of the early episodes. She has 150 Potter cosplays.
Well, see, I'm not alone. I'm not alone in my adventure.
Animated
I'm not
cosplay.
including, of course, the non-generation 1 Pokemon because I think I
Yes.
have like 10 to 20 Pokemon costumes that aren't part of Gen 1, but it's still I'm on a very slow quest, but it's a quest nonetheless. And I don't know what I'm going to do with myself when my quest is over other than I guess do what Thanos did, where it was like, "All right, I snapped. Now I guess I'm just gonna
In
sit and
honor
watch
of
the
your cosplay,
sunrise."
I'm going to switch costumes in honor of your cosplay. We're back.
And now it's time for dancing. Yeah. I wasn't dancing. What are you talking about? Everything's fine. Nothing is ruined.
Well, I get that one, and I get this one. These are not mine. These are my daughter's hats.
Well, your daughter has excellent taste.
Yeah.
I really like the winking Pikachu hat. That's A plus. Yay! Thanks everyone.
How many nights do you do the video streaming on Twitch? Twitch.
Oh yeah, so my Twitch streaming is 3 times a week. So, give or take, because there might be some days where I'm doing a special event, so it might be 4 times a week, or some days where I'm doing a special event that keeps me from streaming, so it's, like, only 2 times a week. Like, basically, I puppet a character using my facial expressions. And so when I open my mouth and talk or my eyes get wide or all of those things, my character does. So my camera is too busy focusing on that. And then I have a program that is dealing with that and making my character move the way that I'm moving. And then I have a broadcasting software that captures all of that and broadcasts it live. And I don't think I know how to do that on Instagram Live. I could probably figure it out for Facebook or YouTube, but I definitely can't figure it out for Instagram.
But let's start talking about some of these other things that I have of yours.
Oh, memories. I built that cosplay. So this is my take on Mr. Mime from Pokemon. I built that cosplay in the height of quarantine. So all of my fabrics had to be purchased online. And I had to shoot it myself. I shot this in my basement with no, it's great. I had a backdrop. I had I had umbrella lights going, so I had like, some light diffusions from different sources. You can kind of see where my sources are. Because I had one high, one a little lower for that backsplash. And so what you're seeing there is like probably take number 8 because every time I would have to use my cell phone as the remote control. So I would have to hit a button that would time it and then after 10 seconds it would go off. So what you're seeing is while I'm evoking this beautiful like, oh, she's kind of like sad crying clown and I love that effect, but what you're seeing is just sheer fatigue and anxiety on my face of is this going to be the right shot
Do
because
you have
I'm
a
so
monitor,
tired. And
or were you just
this was
guessing?
I want to say in February of the year I took it, so it was really cold in my basement. So I'm just tired and cold.
Did you have a monitor, or were you just guessing with the cameras?
So my cell phone was wirelessly communicating with my camera, which is on a
Okay.
tripod, probably about like 3 or 4 yards away from me while I was taking this photo. And my cell phone has, a screen, so I could see sort of where I was looking, and I could identify where I wanted the focal point to be. But then what would happen is I would have to then hit the timer and then drop my cell phone onto the hard concrete floor. So it was like, all right, quickly wrap my cell phone up in its protective case and drop it, get back into pose. It was a very frustrating process. Let me put it this way. I have never appreciated a human photographer that wasn't me more. It's such
That's a
a
funny
pain.
story
I just
'cause
did a video recording for Mad Dog of Telekinetic Maniac over on YouTube. And the two of us had worked together to make a script. We were talking about cosplay judging for presentation. Yeah, it was a really great video, and I encourage viewers to check that out as well. But what was difficult for me is that, of course, I worked really hard to make a script, and I usually am not the kind of person who does a script. I'm more like bullet points and then just talk about stuff. But since Mad Dog was working off a script and wanted to have cues so that they could work in um, dialogue with the two of us,
yes.
despite the fact that we were not recording at the same time, I really felt compelled to stay on script. So I'm sitting there trying to read very specific text while also making eye contact with the camera. What's difficult is my camera is like up here, but my text is down here. So I'm doing like the
I
I'm doing the
I
glancing. I probably look a little bit insane, but the good news is
just a
my
little.
eyes have never looked more blue in those videos.
I taped it as high underneath the lens as I could get the text. It was only at the bottom of the page that you could see my eyes go down because the page was, full 8 by 11
Right.
page. I'm
So
actually
viewers
thinking,
who are content creators, we feel your pain.
well,
Viewers
know
who
what
are
you do.
thinking
I know
about
what you
content
do.
creation, these are the things that you will soon get to grouse about when you start creating your content. I look
Well,
forward to kibitzing about all of
for a
these
few
like
hundred
issues. I've
dollars.
lost my host. Hello,
Now on the other side,
I'm the host now.
we got another one for you.
Ah, yes, my Vaporeon cosplay. This was a photo that was taken by Amy E Photography, and I remember. So I worked so hard on this cosplay. This was my birthday present to me.
You kind of work so hard till you're blue in the face, huh?
Oh yeah, that's exactly what happened. No, I remember. I had there it is. Dum tish. Um, I worked so hard on this. I used to bring pieces of this to work with me so that during my lunch block I could do some of the hand sewing that came with this, because on my birthday I had coordinated a group of people to all dress up as Vaporeon from Pokemon and go to a waterfall and just frolic in a waterfall. And that was my birthday present to me, was I wanted everyone to be Vaporeons and frolic in a waterfall. It was very cool.
I would have done
Unlike
something
this
funny,
day.
but
This day, however, the day of this photo was not very cool, and shortly thereafter, I actually got the heat stroke. But I have
you
fond memories of the costume nevertheless.
okay?
This outfit has probably the most story to it. So this is Aloy from Horizon Zero Dawn. So that's what the outfit is specifically from, and all of the details are specifically from it. It was my first commissioned wig. I commissioned my wig from a company called Hero Hair. I had heard about it New York Comic Con, and they specialize in making wigs for movie and television. But one of the things that lured me, it was like they told me, they're like, you spend thousands of dollars on your costume, and then like 30s of dollars on your wig. Like, help let us work with you to make a wig that like works with your costume. And so when I decided to take on this cosplay, I was like, you know what, this is the one that I want to have like a really special wig for. And this costume wound up being a really special one because over the summer, this past summer, I wound up flying to Amsterdam in the Netherlands, where the company that makes the Horizon family of games, because now we've got Horizon Forbidden West is the sequel. Yeah, I went to the studio that made this game, Guerrilla Games. I got to go on a studio tour. I got to see like one of the screening rooms where they would like watch some of the like test video. And this was in Amsterdam. The team that makes the Horizon games, Guerrilla Games, just really, really connected with their fan base, and they really like to do outreach with their community. It doesn't hurt that one of my close friends looks uncannily like one of the characters. So this is Grinning Hazard cosplay. Looks very much like Erend from the video games. So over the summer, I also remade his Erend cosplay so that the two of us could fly out to TwitchCon and visit Guerrilla Games in their headquarters. It was a very exciting trip, and it was so marvelous. I encourage anyone who can to just visit Amsterdam because generally speaking, it's a beautiful city in a beautiful country. But the experience was truly like one of those once in a lifetime
Well, I'm
experiences I
glad
had.
you.
Ooh, this is my rare not Pokemon costume. I had to give you some photos that weren't all Pokemon. Uh, there was a craze, I want to say in 2018, um, called Bowsette.
Yeah.
So it was if Bowser got a power crown and was like a combination of Princess Peach and Bowser. And I really went to town making
Did you
this
wear
armor.
this PAX East? Because I remember PAX East photo shoot of a lot of Bowser and a
Oh
lot.
gosh. Yeah, well, so I did this costume at the suggestion of a friend of mine who's a photographer. He's sadly no longer with us, so I really do feel like a special this costume has a special place in my heart because when I think of it or when I look at it, it just reminds me of that friend of mine, and it
See,
makes me smile a good few times.
you should be appearing in this at the new Nintendo Land at Universal Florida and
Oh yeah.
California.
So what
I
you
mean,
can kind of see on my hip armor, it's the photo just cuts off, so you can only kind of see it. Um, on the hip armor, I have Bowser's face, like his that immortal face that you see like plastered over everything. I had that icon as often as I could throughout
okay.
this costume. I had it on the cape, I had it on the hip pieces. I didn't sneak it into the weapon, and the only reason I didn't sneak it into the axe was because I had a friend who wanted to use the axe for her cosplay at a just separate time. So I wanted to make sure that the axe was more brand neutral so that she could use it and not, feel like, oh, this is clearly a Bowser axe.
Well,
I
that's
think
nice
she
of
still
you.
has it actually.
Now you got to tell me about this. I witnessed this.
Yes, I wound up wearing this at that same convention that I wore my Bowsette costume for. Um, this one's a hoot. This was a Venomoth again from Pokemon,
I kind
and
of think you look like a '60s or early '70s disco Pokemon here.
oh, definitely. I wound up remaking the wings after this photo shoot because they're big on like they're appropriate sized wings, but especially against the high light background, you really can't see them with all the arms and then the bright lights. So I wound up remaking them, and they're now significantly larger. It's like double the size. They're amazing. But
I
this
saw
one is
this.
so fun.
I saw this at one PAX East. I don't know which one.
Yes.
But
Um,
I do have a picture of you from there that I found this instead, but because I couldn't find the picture I took of you there.
well, so there is a lot of costume element, and the thing is, I made the shorts and shirt, but it doesn't look like I did because it just looks like shorts and a shirt that you could just buy.
Was it cold or hot? Hot, cold or hot?
Oh, in this costume, I was exactly the right temperature because
Okay.
I was like overheating on my shoulders and overheating from the
Mean,
knee down. So like my midsection and my thighs were like the area that I could just ventilate from.
okay.
But in case anyone is curious, the top pair of arms are my actual arms, and the bottom pair of arms are fake. I have no, what I did was I bought mannequin arms intended to be put into like a dress form. So they're posable mannequin arms. They're not connected to each other. There's like just a little stud that you could put them into, insert them into a dress form.
Like Manny behind me's arm.
Exactly, exactly.
Yes.
Instead, what I did was I got a PVC tube and epoxy glued the studs into the tube and staple gunned some nylon webbing straps so that I could strap it on behind me. So I'm wearing those arms like a backpack, and the costume, like the fur jacket, is a functional fur jacket. But what's wild about it is I made two sets of sleeves. So there's the sleeves for my actual arms, and then immediately underneath it is a sleeve for these fake arms. So I have to be very careful about how I put it on. It is a process, and I need another pair of hands, ironically, to put on my extra pair of hands. It creates this very cool visual effect, and I liked to when I was walking around PAX East, I liked to put my real hands also on my hips. And then when I would talk to people, I would move my real hands and people would see that I still had a pair of hands on my hips, and the reactions I got from casual convention goers was chef's kiss. It was hilarious.
I've had at Fan Expo this year. I had a costume. I hate having a cosplay that you need help getting into.
Oh, same.
Most of my cosplays, I've done 3 or 4 cosplays in a day because I'm that insane. For my car, go change my car because I try to make the same white shirt and pants, the basics, and then everything else goes over that.
Right. Well, that
So,
makes it easier to do stage changes.
but this guy walking around PAX East in my Rocketeer with the backpack on a Saturday when you couldn't move
It's
with
tough.
thigh high boots on, which I'm a guy and I'm not really used to wearing thigh high boots. Or I'm putting them on or taking them off. And but on a Saturday, I remember wearing my Rocketeer there, and first of all, there's just a green eyes, so everything's dark green because you can't see anything
Mhm.
else, and you can't move on a Saturday. And I had the big backpack, so people kept bumping into me, and at Fan Expo this year, I was in the same damn building. Fan Expo this year, I was meeting David Tennant of Doctor Who, and so I have a Rassilon, which is it was years ago in David Tennant's last episode. He's come back twice now to Doctor Who, but his last episode when he was kind of leaving, Timothy Dalton played this Lord Rassilon character with this big red robe and medieval armor and a
Yep.
gauntlet and a staff.
If I'm
And
not mistaken, that was a character from the Tom Baker era, and then
yes, it was.
it was
Yes, it
rebooted
was.
because the
It
costume
was.
itself, the original costume, had a giant, very stupid looking collar,
Time Lords had the
very
collar,
dumb looking
and
collar.
much about the other Time Lords in that episode did have the collar,
Yeah,
but Rassilon didn't. And I love that costume. I had an exact duplicate made of the costume. You almost never see this
yeah,
character anywhere.
yeah.
And so my daughter hates going to that hall. She had one experience at a PAX East, even though she loves gaming. there were too many people there, and she kind of melted down mentally and everything else. So she never
Yeah.
wanted to go back. Even when I played there, she didn't come. I had several other people help me when
What I love though about PAX East is, and a couple more cons have started doing this, is PAX East sort of pioneered something called the AFK Lounge. So AFK being short for away from keyboard, but the
yes,
idea is that there is a place that you can go to in the convention for
like a
when
little
you are
choir show.
overwhelmed,
Yes,
and it's like a
Granite
quiet
Con,
room.
Granite Con's had something like that the last several years.
Right. And I appreciate that, especially after people have had this like quarantine experience, that conventions are more
Yeah, my
sensitive
daughter's.
to our neurodivergence.
So I met David Tennant this summer, and after waiting in line for hours, I walked in, and he looks at me and goes, "But you're Rassilon." I
Yeah.
did not
I
know
mean,
that you were Hoovian.
because I threw down
There you
Raxacoricofallapatorian and I know a Tom Baker, yes, but I kind of fell off the wagon in the Matt Smith era.
when
I
I
love
met,
David Tennant so very much.
he's back
Oh, is he back on the American soil for a upcoming convention?
at the end of Doctor Who 13's last
Oh, you're
episode.
talking about in the show. Yes, I did
Yes.
hear that he's coming back to the show. I got excited that he was back in the US. I was like, I thought he was filming in Wales, but what do I know? I
Well,
only
he did
follow him on
film three
Facebook like a
specials.
weirdo.
He was filming three specials.
Yeah,
How many cosplays do you have now?
gotta go with the tough question.
Well, how many plastic boxes do you have in your basement?
Here's the thing, I stopped using plastic boxes.
Uh,
And this is gonna sound terrible. I literally use trash bags. They're scented, so that means my costumes come out fresh as a daisy. This one was in a trash bag.
Ashley Doc Phoenix was a guest on 9 or 10,
Yeah.
and I know that you, her, and Larcy. She's been there, but I don't think I've really talked to her much,
Mhm.
if ever. She's been next to you several times, but I think I just mostly talked to
We
you.
often are.
But Ashley, I've known for years. I knew Ashley before you knew Ashley,
It's true.
and I had those garbage bags in which all of you did a whole scam that you were going to come as garbage bag
Oh,
Pokemons. And
yes, that is technically separate, although that too is in a trash bag. So, yes, there is a Pokemon. It's not
trash
from
bag
the
and trash
original
bag.
generation. It's called a Trubbish,
Yes, I know
and
about that.
for April Fool's Day, a small collection of us, and this includes our friend Tegan, our friend Michaela. Hop is my hero is her cosplay handle, and Red Bar Crafting. We all like, as well as Larcy and Ashes. We all did cosplays of Trubbish. Now, the joke was that we were going to work on actual cosplays of Trubbish, like, for realsies cosplays that like we put in effort, and I put in a lot of effort to make this very elegant ball gown Trubbish. But on April Fool's Day, I took a green trash bag that I bought on Amazon and giant googly eyes that I bought on Amazon and just like bagged myself up, stuck some googly eyes on my shoulders. I think it was like around my shoulder area, and then like stood in front of my trash cans in front, like in my garage, and like took a picture and posted it on the internet and was like, "Hey guys, I've been working really hard on this cosplay. I'm a Trubbish." And that like a bunch of us posted that, and that wound up kind of going viral on April Fool's Day. But then
Frank the
hilariously,
Internet.
the actual prank that we had was April 2nd when we posted the actual cosplay. And then that wound up going viral. And I remember there was I don't remember what the website was, but we got a write up from a website who thought this was the funniest thing on the planet. They were like, okay. So I wound up finally taking that cosplay with me to PAX East last year, and a bunch of my friends who had seen both photos go viral on Twitter were like, I really like this ball gown version. there's a little bit of me that's sad that you're not wearing the April Fool's prank version. I was like, oh, you mean the one that took me 20 minutes? How dare you? I love this. I actually wore this costume just this past weekend for Aresia. I loved making this. This is my Ivysaur, again from Pokemon. This is another costume that was entirely made with fabrics that I bought online. So I got really good at figuring out what fabric um, looks like on the internet and what it would look like in my hand. And this one was just me wanting to make something that was just the embodiment of early spring. And I loved every minute of it. Making the flower petals, like so it's a satin on the roses on my shoulder and on my head. Those are satin, and I made each flower petal individually, and then by hand I stitched them all together to create this really cool floral texture. And then I added the silk, so that I've got some silk for the actual like leaves hanging out there, and then the flower petals that you can see on my sleeves and crawling up my dress, those are all from like some flowers that like some bunches of flowers that I bought on Amazon. And I went into my basement, again, my very cold basement, and I'm sitting there with gem tack, just like tack, stick. And I must have spent just hours in my basement sticking these flowers onto fabric once I had sewn it up just so I could have this beautiful effect, and it came out so lovely, but I had to wait a month before I could photograph it. So I made this costume in March of that year, and those of you who live in the New England area in the US know that March is still winter.
Yes. Yes, it
And so
is.
I had to wait until like mid-April. So I think these photos are from mid-April, and there still wasn't a lot of flowers, but the magnolia tree in Boston had just come into bloom. So I am surrounded by the blossoms of a magnolia tree. They were very stinky because it's magnolias and magnolias smell. Um, but it was gorgeous, and the tree was in full bloom. It was like living in a painting. I loved every minute of being there. It was just so cool. I knew my photographer was going to adore the location once we finally like waited for spring. But I was so butthurt because I had this lovely costume that was the embodiment of spring, and I was so pumped for spring, but I had to wait an entire month before I could tell anyone about it. It was very frustrating.
You must- This
Oh.
I is this up in Lincoln?
This is, I think so, because these are the ice castles in New
Yeah,
Hampshire. So I think
here
that's
in
the
Lincoln.
town. Oh, it is gorgeous. This photo was done by a piece of light. He braved the icy cold. This was in a February a couple of years ago. Obviously very chilly. He brought us hand warmers because there was another cosplayer with us. So I have hand warmers under my my giant sleeves. So I was nice and toasty. Uh, but I had 18 yards of fabric for one layer alone. I think in total I'm wearing 50 yards of fabric. Uh, it was funny when I was taking this photo, I felt like a magical ice fairy. It was so delightful. Funny story about this moment. So they discourage cosplayers from taking photos with other, like with other guests at the ice castles because don't want they don't want like companies to like Disney to get mad at the ice castles for being like, well, you hired a Disney princess, and that was like it becomes legally messy. Um, so at
It's
first
sort of
I had
like
gotten into trouble with the ice castles when I was taking photos with the children. I had to tell people that I wasn't allowed to take photos with them. What was funny is one of the managers of the location wound up talking to me and like just getting my story and like, was this a costume of something in particular? And I was like, well, it's my interpretation, it's my design, so really it can be anything. And he was like, oh, well, if that's the case, would you want to work for us and just like show up on some days and be like we will pay you to show up and take photos with the guests. So I was like, yeah, of course. Shortly thereafter, unfortunately, the pandemic happened, so I wasn't able to fully take them up on that offer. But it was really cool to be, an ice princess, like a generic ice princess,
It's
and
one of the
then get
reasons why.
offered a job.
It's one of the reasons why Disney doesn't allow costumes if you're over 12, except for
Exactly.
Star Wars costumes now. You can wear
Yes,
some Star
Star
Wars,
Wars are allowed, but
but
Disney is
I've been to a lot of the Disney Halloween parties,
right.
and
The only way that you're allowed to wear
but you're not
costumes
supposed to
over
take.
age 12 at Disney
But
World.
even then, at the Halloween party, you're not supposed to take pictures with others.
No, because again, you could misrepresent the company. I totally understand where it comes from because like the Disney characters go through all this very specialized training. They can't break character. They can't say certain, inappropriate things, right? So if I were to show up as, Snow White and start swearing like a sailor, I would be misrepresenting the image that Disney works really hard to maintain. And so I become a liability because then what could happen is a family could think that I work for Disney and could be talking about,
Yeah,
"Oh my god, remember that Snow White at Disney World who was so inappropriate? That's awful. I'm never going back there again." But
you
that
see,
would
I'd
be
want to
against
go to a
misrepresenting.
inappropriate Snow White, but that's a different story altogether.
Right, right, but you gotta remember, Disney is first and foremost a
I
family
can't tell
company.
you how many people, cast members, took a picture of me when I was dark brown.
Oh, I believe it. I believe that they would
I
because the cast
the main
members
streets
is hilarious.
the Main Street Emporium actually gave me this little thing that says "Best Costume at Halloween Party."
Oh, that's awesome. I
I
love
was
the Mainstream Emporium. Chat. Or
and I like to thank you for coming.
thank you
I've
for having me.
always enjoyed talking to you whenever I've seen you around the cons or anything, and you were all on the list of. Geez, you're in the New England Comic Con video. Besides the panel, I think I stopped by and I think I talked to you for a while on camera with that, and I think I got you again at Wicked. I got you and Ashley a little bit at Wicked.
Mhm.
But in any case, I'd like to thank you for coming by. I'd like to thank you for having me do that panel one day. If you're
Of
doing a
course.
different panel somewhere and want it recorded, I just drop me a line. I'm always looking for content.
Absolutely. So
And,
far, fingers crossed, I'll have a panel at PAX East, but I'm just waiting for my proposal to get approved. So, other than that, I don't have any prospects in the very near future, but I will let you know if anything changes.
okay. On the
Captain
cave?
Con is in Warwick, Rhode Island, and it is
Well,
on February 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Definitively, I will be at Captain Con, obviously, and I will be at PAX East. And that is all I know definitively because planning further out than March is like so 2002.
I I'm not actively trying to get hired anywhere, so that's easy for me.
Well,
Uh,
then, viewers, if you are running a convention and are interested in having a fabulous panelist to talk about cosplay, well, you can settle for me.
True story. I became friends with you on Facebook, and I also liked your cosplay page. If for 6 to 10 months, I actually thought you were two different people.
Yay!
So you ever got that from somebody?
That is the best compliment a gal can hear. I have gotten, to my opinion, the best compliment is when someone that I know well introduces themselves to me when I'm in a costume that they haven't seen me in.
Yes,
That's
yes.
the best compliment. It
Well,
happened a couple years ago with Nerd Caliber Photography.
yes,
The owner of that company is a man named Rodney, and he
yes.
introduced himself and like gave me his card, and I was like, "I know who you are, Rodney. It's Mink." He was like, Well, there you go. You fooled me again. So us cosplayers live for those moments
I get the
because we work
reverse.
hard to be chameleons.
I showed up at GranaCon once the Sunday. I didn't wear any costumes around. When I was performing, that was true. But after I stopped performing for the day, I was wandering around in street clothes. And I started talking to 3 or 4 people I had actually talked to that day. And they had no idea who I was in
What
my,
I have
in
heard,
my
and I don't know what this says about me, what I have heard from people is they tend not to recognize my costume or me in my costume. The thing that I get recognized for more than anything is my voice. I don't know what that means. I choose to take it as a compliment, but
Well, you're a
apparently I have a
professional.
very distinctive voice.
You're a professional. So when you're on or teaching, you have a mannerism. When they rate as a instructor, there was a course eval done every time I taught adults. It said, "How do you rate the instructor's performance?" Because it's a performance.
Yes.
So when you're teaching, you adopt a mannerism or a person who's the teacher mink.
Yep. You got to
And
command the space because kids can smell weakness.
yes, they can. We have to go because I think this software is going to explode.
Save the data.
So I'll hit stop. Thanks for coming. Everybody go
Thanks
to
again for
your
having me.
YouTube. Your YouTube is what?
I have a streaming YouTube, so it's Mink the Satyr streaming, and that's where my YouTube channel resides. To catch clips of my stuff from Twitch.
Facebook, it's just Mink the Satyr, and Instagram, it's just Mink the Satyr.
That's correct. You can find me on most social medias, Mink the Satyr. It's pretty straightforward.
It's not like there's two.
It's not like there's two.